Why did the world's toughest leading men and legendary crooners gamble their iconic faces on a surgeon's scalpel? In Hollywood, the pressure to stop the clock is a high-stakes game where one wrong move can turn a bad boy into a cautionary tale. From Mickey Rourke's boxing scars to Simon Cowell's horror film realization, we're peeling back the bandages on the transformations that shocked the industry. You'll learn exactly when these icons should have folded them and why some finally embraced the silver hair and wrinkles. Today, we're counting down the most dramatic male plastic surgery journeys and revealing which star's son was actually terrified of his new face. Mickey Rourke. In the 1980s, Mickey Rourke was the undisputed king of cool. With his smoldering gaze in 9.5 weeks and raw grit in Barfly, he didn't just act, he commanded the screen. For many of us who remember that era, Rourke represented a certain kind of Hollywood rebel, a leading man with a bruised soul and undeniable charisma. However, at the peak of his fame, Rourke walked away from the limelight to chase a ghost from his past: professional boxing. The ring is a literal school of hard knocks, and it took a devastating toll on Rourke's famously handsome face. By the early 90s, he had suffered a broken nose, a compressed cheekbone, and split lips. In an attempt to put the pieces back together, Rourke turned to plastic surgery. Unfortunately, he later admitted he went to the wrong guy. A series of rhinoplasties, facelifts, and cheek implants, compounded by permanent silicone injections, transformed his features into something almost unrecognizable. The rugged charm was replaced by a face that bore the heavy, often distorted marks of surgical overcorrection. Yet, Rourke's story isn't a tragedy. It's a masterclass in resilience. He spent years in the cinematic wilderness before staging one of the greatest comebacks in history with The Wrestler. He used his altered appearance to bring a haunting, lived-in authenticity to his roles. Today, Rourke remains unapologetic. He owns every scar and every procedure, reminding us that while time and choices may change how we look, they can never diminish a true artist's spirit. Kenny Rogers. For those of us who grew up with the radio on in the 70s and 80s, Kenny Rogers was more than just a singer. He was the ultimate storyteller. With that signature silver beard and a voice like warm gravel, he invited us into the world of The Gambler and shared the stage with Dolly Parton for The Timeless Islands in the Stream. He possessed a gentle, southern masculinity that felt both sophisticated and approachable, earning him a permanent seat at the high table of American music icons. However, as the decades rolled by, the man who sang about knowing when to fold 'em struggled to walk away from the pressure of aging in the spotlight. In the 1990s, Rogers took a significant risk by undergoing a series of cosmetic procedures, including facelifts and Botox. The most drastic change came from an eyelid surgery, blepharoplasty, that backfired. Instead of looking refreshed, the skin was pulled too taut, altering his warm, expressive eyes into a permanent look of surprise. To his credit, Kenny was always as honest as one of his ballads. In his 2013 memoir, Luck or Something Like It, he candidly admitted his regret, confessing that the tightness drove him crazy. He realized, perhaps too late, that his fans didn't want a polished pop star. They loved the rugged, weathered face of the man they had aged alongside. When Kenny passed away in March 2020, his legacy remained untarnished by the scalpel. He proved that while a few bad hands in the surgeon's chair might change a man's reflection, they can't dim the soul of a legend. He taught us that true grace lies in the music you leave behind and the courage to admit when you should have just played the hand you were dealt. Justin Jedlicka. While many in Hollywood seek the surgeon's touch to hide the passage of time, Justin Jedlicka, widely known as the human Ken doll, approaches plastic surgery with an entirely different philosophy. Born in 1980 in Poughkeepsie, New York, Jedlicka didn't see cosmetic enhancement as a way to fix flaws, but as a medium for high-concept art. Growing up, He viewed the sculpted look of the affluent as a pinnacle of status and glamour, a stark contrast to the natural world. His journey began the moment he reached adulthood. Just 4 days after turning 18, Jedlicka underwent his first rhinoplasty, a move that ignited a lifelong obsession with self-transformation. Over the next 2 decades, he turned his own body into a living canvas. By 2012, he had already surpassed 190 procedures. Today, with a total spend estimated at over $1 million and a tally of procedures rumored to exceed 1,000, he has modified nearly every inch of his physique. From custom-designed back and shoulder implants to chest, bicep, and brow lifts, Jedlicka has pushed the boundaries of what is medically possible. To the average observer, his transformation is jarring, but to Jedlicka, it is a triumph of individuality. Appearing on reality programs like Botched, he has articulately defended his lifestyle, viewing himself as a pioneer of body modification. He isn't trying to look like a specific person or even a doll. He is engineering a version of himself that exists outside the constraints of biology. Whether one views it as a cautionary tale or a bold expression of freedom, Jedlicka remains a fascinating figure who reminds us that, for some, the quest for perfection is a marathon with no finish line. Simon Cowell. For decades, Simon Cowell has been the man we love to hate, the Mr. Nasty of the airwaves who transformed the landscape of modern television. From his scathing critiques on American Idol to his massive success with the Got Talent and X Factor franchises, Cowell built a global empire on his ability to spot a star. However, in recent years, the man who spent his career judging others found himself under the harsh microscope of public opinion. Not for his opinions, but for his face. Like many in the high-definition era of entertainment, Cowell initially viewed cosmetic enhancements as a routine part of his grooming. He famously quipped that using Botox was as commonplace and necessary as brushing one's teeth. Yet the Botox habit eventually caught up with him. By the early 2020s, viewers were stunned by a series of public appearances where his face appeared stiff, heavy, and drastically altered. The turning point came when his young son, Eric, reportedly became frightened by his father's changing features. Seeing himself through his son's eyes and a few unflattering photos, Cowell realized he had gone too far, admitting he looked like something out of a horror film. Taking a page from his own book of honest critiques, Cowell decided to fold his hand on heavy fillers. He underwent procedures to dissolve much of the facial filler and pivoted toward a more holistic approach to aging. Today, at 66, he emphasizes a rigorous health regimen, including a better diet and simpler skincare like facials, rather than the needle. Cowell's journey serves as a relatable lesson for many, that while we all want to stay in the game, there is a fine line between looking refreshed and losing the very features that make us who we are. Michael Jackson. For those of us who lived through the 1980s, Michael Jackson wasn't just a singer. He was the heartbeat of a generation. From the moment he debuted the moonwalk during Motown 25 to the record-breaking success of Thriller, he redefined the American dream. Yet, as his fame reached stratospheric heights, the public became increasingly fixated on his changing face, a transformation that would become as much a part of his legend as his music. The evolution of his appearance began in 1979 after he broke his nose during a dance rehearsal. What started as a necessary rhinoplasty to repair his breathing transitioned into a decades-long quest for aesthetic change. By the mid-90s, Jackson had undergone multiple nose surgeries, chin cleft additions, and cheek augmentations. While the media often mocked these changes, it's important to note the immense pressure he felt under the relentless gaze of the world. Perhaps his most significant change was his skin tone. While many accused him of bleaching, Jackson eventually revealed he suffered from vitiligo, a condition that destroys skin pigment, which he managed with specialized makeup and treatments to even his complexion. Despite the complexities of his personal life and the physical shifts that made him appear increasingly fragile, Michael Jackson's professional brilliance never wavered. He remained a perfectionist, a master of choreography, and a vocal powerhouse until his untimely passing in 2009. For his fans, the King of Pop remains an immortal figure. His story is a poignant reminder that even the most gifted among us can struggle with self-image, but true genius is found in the art that continues to move the world long after the curtain falls. Burt Reynolds. For anyone who spent Saturday nights at the cinema in the 1970s, Burt Reynolds was the ultimate man's man. With his trademark smirk, that iconic mustache, and an easygoing charm that leapt off the screen, he was the engine behind blockbusters like Smokey and the Bandit and the gritty masterpiece Deliverance. Burt wasn't just a movie star. He was a cultural force who defined a specific era of American masculinity, rugged, witty, and seemingly indestructible. However, even the Bandit wasn't immune to the pressures of the Hollywood lens. As the years progressed, fans noticed a change in his famous features, leading to decades of tabloid rumors. To his credit, Reynolds was refreshingly blunt about one specific choice: his decision to undergo blepharoplasty or an eyelid lift. He didn't frame it as vanity, but as a necessity. He suffered from ptosis, a sagging of the upper eyelids that began to interfere with his vision. "I was tired of people telling me I looked tired," he famously remarked, a sentiment many of us can certainly appreciate as the birthdays pile up. While critics often pointed to his smooth forehead and tight skin as evidence of further work, Burt remained steadfast, attributing his look to good genes and perhaps a little bit of Hollywood magic. He stayed active in the industry well into his sunset years, proving his talent was far deeper than his tan. When he passed away in 2018, he left behind a legacy of high-speed chases and hearty laughs. Ultimately, Burt Reynolds taught us that while you can tweak the bodywork to keep the car on the road, it's the engine underneath, the spirit and the talent, that truly stands the test of time. Ray Liotta. If there was one thing you could never forget about Ray Liotta, it was his eyes. Whether he was playing the wide-eyed dreamer shoeless Joe Jackson in Field of Dreams or the intense volatile Henry Hill in Goodfellas, Liotta possessed a cinematic presence that was both electrifying and deeply human. For many of us, he represented the peak of 1990s crime drama, a man who could transition from a charming smile to a cold, piercing stare in a heartbeat. As he moved into the later chapters of his career, the conversation surrounding Liotta often shifted from his performances to his appearance. In an industry that demands eternal youth, observers began to point to a noticeably different look. His once sharp, rugged features appeared smoother, and at times his face took on a slightly stiff or puffy quality. While the public whispered about potential facelifts, fillers, or Botox, Ray handled the scrutiny with the same toughness he brought to his roles. He ignored it. He never confirmed the rumors, choosing instead to let his work remain the focal point of his life. Liotta's final years were a testament to his enduring talent. He experienced a magnificent second act with powerful performances in The Many Saints of Newark and Blackbird, proving that his grit and gravitas had only deepened with age. When he passed away unexpectedly in his sleep in 2022, the world didn't mourn a look. We mourned a powerhouse of American acting. He left us with a powerful reminder that while the surface may change, a true artist's intensity is something no procedure can ever replicate or replace. Tom Jones. For over 6 decades, Sir Tom Jones has been the ultimate force of nature in popular music. With a voice that can shake the rafters and a stage presence that defined cool for a generation, the Tiger from Wales became a household name with hits like It's Not Unusual and Delilah. To his legions of American fans, he was the charismatic powerhouse who bridged the gap between traditional pop and soulful rock, always delivering his performances with a wink and a swagger. However, even a man with Tom's legendary confidence wasn't immune to the bright lights of the stage. As he transitioned from a young heartthrob to a mature statesman of music, he turned to plastic surgery to keep pace with his own image. Jones has been remarkably candid about his journey, admitting to a rhinoplasty, chin refinement, and eyelid surgery to stay camera-ready. But the most compelling part of his story is the moment he chose to stop. He famously revealed that his surgeon gave him a stern warning. If he kept going, his face might lose the ability to express the very emotions he pours into his songs. Heeding that advice, Tom made a bold choice that resonated deeply with fans. He stepped away from the scalpels and the hair dye, proudly debuting a shock of natural silver hair that gave him a distinguished, authoritative new look. Now in his mid-80s, he is arguably more respected than ever. He has proven to all of us that while you can't stop the clock, you can certainly age with style. His enduring success is a masterclass in the idea that true star power doesn't come from a smooth forehead, but from a voice that never wavers and a passion that never fades. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome videos. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.